Ohio gozaimasu, Internet. Mogwai here, and I got another MTG video for you guys today. I am back from Japan, and I do indeed feel like I've enhanced my weebness around 78%, so hopefully that's a good thing. And yeah, man, the trip was a blast. Hopefully I'll be able to share it with you guys more in the upcoming streams for anybody who's actually interested in that. And without further ado, let's hop back onto the grind, even though we kept the daily uploads going. And let's talk a little bit. Today we're going to ramble. We're not really going to showcase gameplay. We're going to talk about some very important stuff, at least in my opinion. And that is the upcoming banned and restricted announcement, which will happen 4 days from now, November 18th to be precise. Very important, perhaps the most important banned and restricted announcement in the past couple of years. And that is because we are all expecting, or at least the majority of us are expecting this card right here, Oko, Thief of Crowns, to be banned. But I also wanted to talk about the power level of green currently in Standard as a color, how it is on a different level in regards to the other colors, and what I would both expect and or want from the upcoming ban restricted announcement in regards to other potential bans, because I do believe that in order to quote unquote fix the current Standard metagame, only banning Oko may not cut it. So as you guys have probably been able to tell, especially a small percentage of you who are I would assume at this point neurotic over my pronunciation of fake names / words on the internet, I am actually pronouncing Oko correctly. You know, instead of saying Ako, which is what I've been saying for a while, I'm saying Oko right now. I wasn't able to modify this because the last 7 videos were pre-recorded, and all of them were recorded the same day. Therefore, I'm going to go on a little bit of a tangent. Hopefully I don't take too long in saying what I have to say here, but I want to deliver a bit of a message to those of you who complain about the way I pronounce, like I said, fake names and fake words in English. I am not a native English speaker. English is not my native language. I am Spanish. I lived in the United States for 4 years when I was young, but that was not anywhere near enough for me to be able to develop the level of English that I have nowadays. I spent a lot of years on the side, watching and reading stuff in English and practicing as much as I could, which was not that much because people speak Spanish in Spain, to reach, like I said, the level of fluidity and grammatical prowess that I have nowadays, right? I'm proud of my English level considering I live in Spain, and not that many people actually know how to speak English in this country. And, it's gone a long way, but I still make mistakes, sometimes rather frequently. Some of them are caused by my Spanish tendencies, like, for example, the J and the Y. We kind of like invert them here in Spain. So a lot of times, like I say something like Yasuo instead of Yasuo, because in Spain it's the other way around. So stuff like that makes me, and there's a lot of things about English that are not really mechanical. And what I mean by that is that there's a lot of ways of pronouncing, things that aren't really intuitive, and they're just kind of that way because reasons. Like there's no actual, grammatical reason as to why it's said like that, and it can be confusing at times. So the reason why I'm saying all this is because every now and then I get a few comments, and some are like pretty elaborate, of people really frustrated and angry at me for how I mispronounce stuff like, I say Ako instead of Oko. It just drives them crazy. They just can't even bear to watch the video because it just kills them inside. And what I'm going to go ahead and say is, fuck you. You are annoying. And you could just stop watching my videos and stop being an annoying little bitch, because you are annoying. And yeah, I need to get that out of my system. Be a little bit more reasonable. At least try to do that. And I don't know, don't dwell so much onto how others say fake words. I just, like, sometimes, like, some days I was getting like legitimately frustrated. So like, what? Like, really? So there you go. Fuck off. then that's where we're gonna get. I'm sorry if I came off like a douche, but I needed. Oh, that felt good. I need to get that out of my system. All right, so having that said, let's actually move on to the video. That took way too long. Holy crap. Okay, so as I was saying, today we're gonna be talking about Oko, Thief of Crowns. And we're going to be talking about these other cards as well. First of all, at this point, I think it's safe to assume that the vast majority of us expect an Oko ban. In fact, I think it would be negligent at this point to not ban Oko on Wizards' behalf. I think Wizards has to ban this card. They have all the data that would... Like, if Wizards of the Coast do not ban Oko, I would be absolutely shocked, and it would be 100% because of, I don't know, their marketing department just being like, we can't ban the face of Throne of Eldraine, the villain of our set, you know, from Standard. It's going to affect pack sales, and it's going to suck for us. But unfortunately, Wizards, you made a big mistake designing this 3-drop, and this is perhaps one of the biggest mistakes you've made in a while from a card design perspective. Unfortunately, because Magic the Gathering is tied to paper, because Magic cards are printed, first and foremost printed on paper, and then, you know, we have the digital realm to dwell in. That, no matter how you look at it, no matter from what angle you're looking at it, no matter what your perspective, that is a handicap for the game itself from a design and balancing standpoint. Whatever gets made and ultimately passes through the playtesting phase that they have internally will remain as is. Therefore, the vast majority of the time, Wizards of the Coast are forced to ban a card if it's deemed too powerful, instead of like other card games in which they have the possibility of potentially nerfing it, changing the text, changing the stats, tweaking it a little bit here and there to make it more fair. They can't do that in Magic because of this, and that's what I mean by it being a handicap, right? There's no mistake. Like, don't even doubt about the fact that Wizards is really struggling with Oko. This is a really tough decision for them to have to make because this card is, you know, one of the things that sells packs, right? But ultimately, the data is there. What is the data? Well, we all know at this point, these past 3 weeks, every single official or non-official big tournament that has happened for the Standard format in Magic the Gathering has featured more and more of this fella right here. The last event was the 6th Mythic Championship, which featured a 69. Not making that up. 69, that sexy, big-ass number of Oko-focused decks. Oko, sorry. Sorry for that one guy who just can't stand. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. And yeah, it's definitely an issue. The prevalence of this planeswalker, like the abundancy, is just over the top and cannot be justified. Part of me is a little bit concerned that they may opt to attack stuff like the Gilded Goose or Paradise Druid, aka Mana Rampers, which enable Oko to happen turn 2. But it's safe to assume that that would be just a really foolish take, and I don't think Wizards can even attempt to justify that and keep a straight face while doing so. At this point, I am assuming that Oko will pretty much 100% be banned, but I do believe that this may not be enough to fix the current power level of Green and Standard, and I'm going to talk a little bit about as to why I believe this is the case. And these cards right here are pretty much the main culprits of the whole issue playing Standard right now. Not only Oko, but all these right here. We have Veil of Summer, which got banned recently in Pioneer. I believe that is a big indicator of the possibility of it being banned in Standard. I would not be surprised in the slightest to see Veil of Summer go. Now that we've seen it gone in Pioneer, which is a set that encompasses even more cards than Standard, it would only make sense for a card like this, which is not even super specific when it comes to what it does, to be banned from Standard as well, especially concerning how it is so prevalent in this format too. Veil of Summer is just not well designed, to be honest. Like, I do like this card existing to a certain extent because it is a great sideboard option for decks such as Simic Flash, which, in case you don't know, Simic Flash is the deck that I despise the most in Magic the Gathering. I just really don't like that deck. I don't like the way it plays. I don't think it's healthy design, and I think it exacerbates English, one of the main issues with Magic's core design. I think counterspells can be, they really make, you know, the difference between going first and second more obvious than it already is, if that makes any sense. And Veil of Summer is one of the major deterrents from that deck being prevalent in best of 3. And having it go could be a bit of an issue, but I would not be against seeing this card go, because it does give green a very powerful resource against, you know, what has been in the past green's, you know, most prevalent predator, right? And that is Dimir based decks, because of their counterspells and because of their single target removal that bypasses stats, unlike colors like red. So yeah, definitely would not be against that going. Gilded Goose, what many claim to be the worst version of Land of Our Elves, is actually not so much the worst version of Land of Our Elves, because it turns out the vast majority of the games in which, if not all the games in which Land of Our Elves is actually, or has any sort of impact to the outcome of a match, is when you're able to use the mana acceleration that it provides you with in the first few turns of a match. And Gilded Goose can serve that exact same role, even though it can only be once. A lot of times it's only really once when you need that to happen, especially when you're leading into plays such as Oko and Nisa. Not only that, he can give you any color while doing so, and he's a flying unit, therefore a very potent chump blocker in the late game, and has the ability to generate more food tokens as well, which has tremendous synergy with the likes of Wicked Wolf, which is perhaps one of the most powerful metagame defining cards in Standard that people are not really talking about enough. I could spend an entire video talking about Wicked Wolf. I could talk about how it just was not really that big of a thing early on as Throne of Eldraine was released, and how little by little it's been getting more and more traction up until this point in which Wicked Wolf is just a force to be reckoned with. It is one of the most crucial cards in Standard, and one of the main reasons why Simic and Sultai and potentially other variants of food decks are as powerful as they are. A card that is such a reliable resource against both creature slash aggro based builds and control decks as well. He can survive not only damage based removal or combat, he can survive single target and board wipes, anything that tries to destroy it. You know, you have to go very specifically into answers such as Prison Realm from white or Angrat's Rampage, etc., to be able to actually deal with this thing consistently and efficiently. Otherwise, it really, and the fact that it gets bigger and bigger every time you're trying to remove it, it just makes this card a legit powerhouse that I think could be a candidate for a potential ban. Like, it is that good. Wicked Wolf is actually that good, and definitely a card that a lot of people have been sleeping on when it comes to debating about, you know, the whole issues with green right now. Once Upon a Time is one of the most obvious issues with green right now. Why is it one of the most obvious issues with green? For it's a much more simple case compared to Wicked Wolf, and that is because it's a card that basically navigates through one of the, if not the most variance-inducing aspects of Magic the Gathering, and that is the mulligan phase. Once Upon a Time can be that land that you desperately need to curve out, or it can be a creature that you want to really curve out, such as a Gilded Goose turn 1 to ramp, a Wicked Wolf turn 4, or even a Hydroid Crassus in the late game. This card is so powerful in the early game if you have it in your opening hand, but also really reliable as the match progresses. There's basically little to no downside to playing this card unless you are running, and it's pretty much a staple in any sort of green deck, unless you're running a deck with a tremendously, like a super low amount of creatures in it. Like, for example, a Wilderness Reclamation deck that has no creatures, and it's more like trying to win with Expansion, Explosion, etc. In that deck, you wouldn't play Once Upon a Time. But in any other deck in which you have a decent amount of creatures in it, which, you know, in green, it tends to be the vast majority of decks, you are going to be playing, or you should be playing, 4 copies of Once Upon a Time. And this card has given green a significant advantage over any other color in regards to early game consistency with your opening hands, which can make or break a match, as we all know in Magic the Gathering. So having green have access to this has really propelled it to the next level when it comes to high level tournament consistency amongst, you know, ladder performance as well, which makes it a very, very prime candidate for a potential ban too. And a lot of people have been advocating for it, and rightfully so. And last but not least, we have Nissa and Hydroid Crassus. I think Hydroid Crassus, anything like toxic about this card, is merely a symptom of Nissa. So I'm going to be talking very little about Hydroid Crassus. I think Crassus is actually a fine card, and I think Crassus is going to be okay in any sort of world in which Nissa, who shakes the world, does not exist. The problem is, I think Nissa is a card that a lot of people just will not admit is a problem, because their main argument is that Nissa is a 5-mana Planeswalker. You don't ban a 5-mana Planeswalker. It's 5-mana play. That's the late, mid to late game in a match. Like, she's fine. She's powerful at turn 5, and that's okay. The problem is she's in green, ladies and gentlemen. The problem is Nissa at turn 3 is significantly more powerful than Oko at turn 2. And we should all probably know at this stage just how devastating a turn 2 Oko when the opponent on the play is. But there's a difference between devastating and auto game loss. I can't remember the last time I won against a turn 3 Nissa being played against me, in which my opponent's IQ was 60 or higher. Like, this card is absurd at turn 3 and 4, and that happens a lot because of green's ability to ramp early on, and with the ability to search for rampers or key lands to curve out into her early with Once Upon a Time, Nissa is just as big of a problem as Oko is. She is backbreaking when she comes in early in a match. Not only is she applying tremendous pressure onto you, but if you don't manage to answer her immediately, then she's going to continue the beating on next turn with another land, dealing more damage and basically going you down to red numbers and health. But on top of that, she is enabling the player to just cheat on mana, just dump their hand pretty much, play a huge Hydroid Crassus amongst many other things with her ridiculous passive ability. I have been against Nissa for a very long time, and it kind of frustrates me when I see people not realizing how big of an issue she is for Standard as of right now. And I do believe there has to be a very big, like, at least we have to talk about this more, because the entire conversation is revolving around Oko, and, you know, to a certain degree, rightfully so, but don't sleep on Nissa. She is just as big of a problem. And that is basically my view on these cards and on what I believe is the reason why green is so powerful right now. So what would I want to see banned? Well, I think personally, in order to fix Standard right now, I would like to see Once Upon a Time Oko, which should 100% be banned on November 18th, and Nissa. I would advocate really hard for these 3 cards to go. I think Wicked Wolf is definitely a card that we need to look at. There are other decks revolving around it that are rising up in popularity and are being very strong as well, with the Oven and Cat core, amongst other things. And this card is just really, really powerful. But I think that with the lack of Oko, Wicked Wolf can still be a very powerful resource, but potentially will be toned down a bit. I think Once Upon a Time is also one of the reasons why this shell is so consistent to begin with, and I do think tackling these three would be more than enough to really change up Standard as we know it. I expect Veil of Summer to be banned. I 100% expect Oko to be banned, but I'm not sure about the possibility of any other card receiving the boot. I think Wizards will not be reluctant to banning Once Upon a Time because of the fact that it's a pretty expensive rare card that also sells packs, and it's hard for them to be encouraged to do that, right? When perhaps Once Upon a Time is not as obvious or does not receive as much discussion as Oko. Oko is where all the memes are at. All the elk jokes revolve around Oko, right? So not enough people talk about this, even though most high-level players acknowledge that this card is indeed a problem. And that's my take. I would personally advocate for these three. I don't think Crassus is an issue by any means. I don't think Goose is an issue by any means. I think Wicked Wolf is at the very least suspect and very, very not underrated, but just should be talked about more. And Veil of Summer is also a pretty toxic card, but its absence could lead to some potentially nasty things later down the line. But I mean, the Standard is always going to be plagued with nasty stuff, regardless of how you approach it. So I think to a certain degree, those things are inevitable if Green drops down in popularity. Anyways, so that is my take on it. What do you guys believe? Is anybody watching this video disagreeing with me when it comes to Oko? I would be curious as to why you would think that way. Like I said, I would be absolutely shocked if this card does not receive the big fat boot, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that could not happen, and if it doesn't, you could definitely expect me posting a bit of an outreach video on it, honestly. But I'm very, very interested to see what they ultimately decide to do. Will it just be a simple Oko ban, or will they have gathered up the data? Are they aware of the full picture, and will they do something about it? This is going to be a very, 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 very important banned restricted announcement. It's just so crucial, especially for the next Mythic Championship, amongst other things, and just for ranked, just for Magic Arena in general. And I'm very eager to see. I'm actually very impatient and a little bit anxious for it, but we'll see how it turns out. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know if there's any cards that you think are also very important for the subject that I haven't really talked about. And if we can, start up a healthy, respectful debate. Hopefully, you know how YouTube comments get in the comment section down below. And yeah, that's all I gotta say. Hopefully you enjoyed this sort of video. I did ramble a little bit about it for over 20 minutes, but it's quite a bit to talk about, and hopefully I got my point across at least somewhat decently. And yeah, thank you guys for watching. Hopefully you're excited for upcoming videos. Happy to be back. I missed it here in Spain. I had a blast in Japan, but I really missed being home, and I'm excited to get back on the grind. So yeah, love you guys. Thank you for supporting the channel. Have a soul day. Hope you enjoyed. I'll see you tomorrow.